Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. Join us as we explore the wide world of cinema, broadening our horizons one movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and as usual, I'm here with Michael.
Hey, guys.
And Jason.
Hey, everybody.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah, doing good.
Nice.
Doing good.
Very nice.
End of the podcast. Hey, guys. How you doing? I'm good.
I'll be the weird one this time. I'm not doing good. I've been having some internet troubles.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
What do you mean the weird one this time?
I mean, you didn't completely melt down like Jason did on the intro question of how you do
Hey,
it.
that was rough. That was a very rough couple of weeks.
But did you get it fixed?
Maybe. We'll see.
Well, I mean, how have you lived without the internet?
He's got physical media. He doesn't need the internet. He has all the blues.
Again, here's my advocacy for physical media. When the internet's down, if you've got the disc, you're golden.
You need something that rhymes with if you've got the disc. Like, if you got the disc, you're golden, it's fine. But, like...
Yeah. We'll have to think of that.
We'll workshop that, but that's for another time.
That'll be on the shirt.
So today, we are talking about The Nightingale.
Yes. I want to go ahead and put disclaimers at the kind of the front load of this episode.
Probably should.
We're going to do our normal thing of talking about what we watched first, but in case you want to tune out after that, The Nightingale is essentially a kind of a high art rape revenge film with a lot of other social commentary thrown in. However, the scenes and depictions of rape in this film are pretty graphic. I mean, I'm not saying that others aren't graphic. The sexual assault is always graphic, but these are quite difficult to watch. There's also child harm in it as well. So these topics, while I don't think discount the movie, because I think it's a very important film and what it has to say is very important.
Oh, definitely.
This might not be something that you would want to watch if you're sensitive to those topics. So just want to throw that disclaimer in at the beginning of this episode, so that way if it's not something that you want to be a part of the discussion about or want to watch, that is totally fine. We completely get that. You can just listen to our bullshit about what we watched for the week and then see you next time.
Go about your day.
And no offense taken.
Mm-hmm. I think it's like we always say, you kind of need to know your own comfort zone when you go into horror with some stuff. And if it's one of those things where you just know you can't handle it, it's better just to not even put yourself in that position.
Sure, and that actually happened to me in this film, because, and we'll talk about it when we get to that spot, but I actually did have to fast forward.
Really?
Yes, I'd seen it already, but due to my recent life change,
I was wondering about that.
I didn't think it would affect me as much as it did, because I was like, no, that's fine, I can watch that. And then the scene
I'm
happens.
hardcore.
The scene happens, and I'm like, oh, this is hitting me a lot different than it did the first time I watched this, and I just kind of skipped on through that.
I've actually heard a lot of horror fans, like other podcasters and people in general, say things, something like that. Like having a kid really changes your outlook on a lot of the horror films you watch.
Yeah, and again, we'll talk about that when we get into it, but it was one of those, I didn't feel that I cheated myself of the experience because I'd seen it before, but at the same time, I also didn't feel like I would have cheated myself of the experience had I just not wanted to watch that scene.
Right.
You know, like, as long as you know what happens...
I think that's debatable. We'll get to that.
Yeah,
we'll get to that.
I know exactly your point. Your point.
All right, so clearly we have a lot of interesting things to talk about today, but first, like usual, we're going to talk about what we've been watching recently.
Well, you guys watch the batshit stuff, and mine was pretty tame, so...
Do you want to go first? Do the tame stuff?
Yeah, let's do the tame stuff first. So,
all right.
A lot of buzz about this in 2020, but I never saw it because it actually kind of opened in theaters when they were still open. But I actually got around to watching Freaky.
Oh, okay.
The Vince Vaughn flick. I should probably pull up.
Yeah, that one looked kind of suspect to me.
You would hate the fuck out of that movie,
I thought
Jason.
I might.
You would hate the shit out of it.
I saw a lot of people comparing it to Happy Death Day.
Same writers, I think.
It's like same producers or something.
Yeah, it's very much, it's Blumhouse. So
Well, I really liked Happy Death Day.
I like the first one a lot, yeah.
I think, honestly, if you like Happy Death Day and you realize going into Freaky that it's goofy, like that it's goofy as shit, the kills are fucking awesome.
Yeah? Is it all CG, though? Is there any practical? Yeah?
No, there is one kill that I don't want to spoil, but god damn, it's great. I was like, surely they're not going to show that. I don't think they're going to spend the time.
Well, that one is R-rated then, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's... So the big thing turn off for a lot of people would probably be that Vince Vaughn is in it.
He's not a terrible actor.
No, but I think a lot of people would see that and be like, oh, it's goofy and I don't need to watch it. Well, it is goofy. It's goofy as shit.
Obviously.
But one of the things that I really like about it is Vince Vaughn. So if you aren't familiar with the premise, it's basically Freaky Friday with a serial killer. He's got like a ritualistic dagger or something and tries to kill the main chick. Well, he doesn't succeed. And so therefore, for some reason, their souls are intertwined now and they split. I mean, that seems like a totally logical thing that would happen.
Sure. Happens all the time.
Yeah. But then their bodies switch, and basically Vince Vaughn becomes like a 16-year-old girl, and then the 16-year-old girl becomes a crazed serial killer.
That doesn't sound like too big of a stretch for her.
Well, and they make a point, like at the beginning of the movie, to kind of show how goody-goody she is and how kind of bland. I think it's funny that they call her bland, and I'm like, there's nothing bland about this girl, like at all, but okay.
Hollywood bland.
Pretty much, yeah, Hollywood bland. And the writer is one of the writers for Happy Death Day.
Cool.
He did Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You, so same writer.
So
I like the second one, too.
I really liked Freaky.
Yeah?
I really liked it a lot.
Okay.
I was surprised at how much I liked it, because I was kind of expecting nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it delivered on the kills. I really dug it. It's
Okay.
also streaming on HBO Max.
All right, cool.
So
Yeah, Blumhouse is very, I feel like, hit or miss with that. Like, sometimes they'll really lean into the R rating.
yeah.
Other times they kind of softball it.
They did. I mean, it's still kind of soft as far as like tone.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say that it's like a dreadful tone. It's goofy and funny, but they didn't chill out on the language. They didn't like.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll give it a watch.
Yeah, I'll give it a watch.
There's a table saw kill that's worth it.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's worth
You have
it.
me intrigued, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
table salt kills rule.
And it's it's actually the dude from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the kid with the dad with the car.
Okay. Cameron?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You looked at me like you'd never seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Well, no. I was wondering if I should make a joke about the principal or not. Then I decided not to.
Oh, yeah, about his perversion.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to watch that movie now with him tracking down a,
Well, now that you
Teenager.
put it that way, kind of hadn't thought about that, but now that you ruined that movie for everyone.
wow.
You're welcome.
Anyway, yeah, that's my movie, Freaky.
Cool.
HBO Max, check it out.
Jason.
Okay, well, unfortunately, mine was not as successful as Michael's. I went back and watched a movie I always meant to. In 1977, Peter Cushing did a couple of movies. He did one or two really good ones, but he also did Shockwaves, which is about. Yeah, I'll read the little tagline here to you. Visitors to a remote island discover that a reclusive Nazi commandant has been breeding a group of zombie soldiers.
Classic.
I can remember the VHS box.
Yeah, it's cool cover. But it's not a good movie. I have to say, just skip this one completely. Cushing does what he can. He's barely in it, but he's got the whole. I mean, he looks like a German officer from Scooby-Doo or something. He's got like a big scar on his eye and everything.
I'm intrigued now.
Well, yeah, but it's like 10 minutes as he's in it.
Oh, okay.
So, but it's just weird he did this the same year as Star Wars. But also has John Carradine. I forgot. He's like the captain of the boat. But it's just a big mess. You could tell they didn't have the money. A lot of padding. A lot of wandering around this big abandoned hotel and wandering around out in the forest and stuff like that. It's just...
Gotta fill time.
Yeah, skip it. So
Wow.
I took a bullet for those
Damn.
of you who are so anxious to go back and watch Shockwaves. I know you're out there.
Hey, you know what? It was a good podcast, though. Rest in peace.
Yeah, R.I.P.
What was the why did you land on Shockwaves? Was it just like
Because it was there.
Because it was there. It's Peter Cushing.
It was like The Strangers or something. Why did you watch this? Because it was there.
Why do I watch anything I watch?
I don't know, but I'm
I
just
don't know.
wondering about
I love the 70s aesthetic. 70s, genre films are great.
I'm just
Peter
wondering about the
Cushing.
thought process of everything that's available at your fingertips to watch, and you're like, "Fuck it, I'm watching Shockwaves."
Because I'm a cinematic masochist. That's why.
Okay.
Okay,
Dustin.
cool. So I got to give some love to Severin Films. they recently did this whole run of post-apocalyptic films from like the 80s. I bought the set. It came with an awesome book that I think was originally in French, and maybe they translated or brought it over. But I've watched 2 of the 3 so far. I've subjected Jason to both of them.
Yes.
The one I really want to talk about, though, is The Raiders of Atlantis,
Yeah.
which is 1983, directed by Ruggero Deodato. And it's almost not a post-apocalyptic film, but it has all those tropes and elements in there. It's about this team of scientists, and they're trying to raise this sunken nuclear submarine off the coast of Miami. Meanwhile, you've got these 2 just like random badasses that are going around, kind of like guns for hire almost, I would say.
I think maybe.
The opening segment, they just raid a villa and like abduct this dude. So.
Yeah, you think they work for the government, but that's never really
Yeah.
established.
And they have no real stakes in anything other than they just go out on a boat and happen to get to where the research team is on this oil platform. And so raising the sub causes this weird phenomenon to happen, and it raises the sunken city of Atlantis.
Oh.
And it turns out that it was this like ancient civilization that once dominated the earth. We all kind of know that general myth. But there's all these people just in society that know about Atlantis and have been awaiting its return. And heralding with its rise, they suddenly all just don the like leather, the skulls, the spikes, and weird freakish like monster bikes, and just start going on a rampage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were all just storing the stuff waiting for this to happen.
I mean, I've got a closet full of that. But
Well, that's something else.
And they're led by this madman who's like, when you first see him, he looks like he should be an American Psycho or something, just like a nice looking dude in a suit. And then he dons this giant crystal skull mask.
Yeah, he looks pretty cool. And he
Yeah.
drives around, he like stands up in the back of this huge old car with all
Yeah.
these spikes on it. And he's got like this baton he's just like slapping against his hand. He's like, I'm a badass, you know.
I've also got that same costume waiting.
That's not a baton.
But you know, it's not brilliant at all. There's nothing like compelling super about it, but it was so much fun to watch, and that was what really struck me about it. Like every few minutes, there's like a big firefight or this big set piece of bikes rolling through cities and just tearing stuff up.
Yeah, a lot of fire stunts.
I told Jason as we were watching it almost felt like when you play one of those on-rail arcade shooters like House of the Dead or Lethal Enforcer. There's just a paper-thin plot that barely makes sense, but it's just stringing you on set piece to set piece.
We need more fire in this scene.
Yeah. And then the ending is just like bonkers crazy, where they've possessed one of the scientists and she's supposed to like bring back the original inhabitants. And they show up to like save her, but it's Jason. Like, what do they even do?
I don't know, man.
They just kind of get there and talk to her for a second, and then the island starts to sink.
Yeah,
and
she
then,
like changes her mind suddenly
Yeah.
for some reason, and then
it's just over as quick as it began.
yeah, very strange.
Very strange, very odd, but super super fun. If you just love big dumb action movies,
Yeah.
and you just want to see explosions and shootouts,
It's a big piece of Italian cheese.
Maybe she
Yeah.
had the Monty Python moment of, let's not go to Camelot.
This is a
Silly place. Just turn around and go.
yeah, so very fun. And real quickly, I'm not going to go deep on it, but we also checked out Warriors of the Year 2072,
Less successful.
which was Fulci's stab at one of these. Not his best. It's later Fulci, you know. Had some cool moments. A little too long, I would say. A little too dry at times. Some great model dioramas.
Yeah, that we see several times.
Well, I mean, you spent the time on it. Use it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Damn it.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yep. So there's one more to check out. I think it's Endgame.
Yeah.
I've seen that one. Yeah, that was big in the box office a couple years ago, right?
Not that one. This is by Joe D'Amato.
Yeah. Different in game.
Get
Yeah,
around to that at some
different.
point. I guess I'll have to drag you along.
Oh,
Jason,
I'm
since
there. Let's do it.
we're
You've
2
already,
for
you're
3.
2 in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
can't stop now.
I mean, you're a completionist. You sat down and watched Shockwaves
big-
because you were like, you know what? I got it.
It's a Peter Cushing movie. I
It's
hadn't
a
seen.
Friday night. I'm feeling wild and crazy. Let's just watch Shockwaves.
Oh, John Carradine too? Yes, please.
But yeah, so super fun, super cool. I love these weird post-apocalyptic films like this. I hope more of them get restored and put back
yeah.
out.
They're fun.
Yeah, so my pick for this week, the Nightingale. Dustin, you've got all the stats as usual.
Yes.
What year is this?
So this is
2018.
2018.
I'm just so fucking unprepared for everything I do. I just show up. And I'm like,
Directed by Jennifer Kent, which all horror fans are going to know for the Babadook.
Another great movie.
Yeah. I think that's what drew me to The Nightingale, and kind of what got the spark for it going was because of Jennifer Kent's success on the Babadook, which was so good.
Oh, I love that
It's
movie.
a great
So
flick, yeah.
good.
Very good.
And like many new directors that I enjoy, she was one of the ones where I said, whatever she does next, I don't care what it is, I'm going to watch it.
Sure. And so I think there's a point of contention about this film because as far as genre cinema goes, this is definitely genre cinema to me.
Totally.
That's the first thing I wanted to talk about. So the big question I always try to lead with is, what genre is this film?
Sure, I mean, I would honestly call this rape revenge. As far as but it's really drama heavy, but also
Historical drama.
historical, psychological, thriller, suspense. But again, I would almost lump this into the horror category just because of how hard, how horrifying it is to watch.
There's plenty of real life horror in here.
Yeah.
It's not the masked madmen's, it's not
I'm with you
slashings.
there on the rape revenge thing, because I think when you look at the tropes and the formula of that,
Sure,
this
it's
definitely
all there.
has all those beats. So here's some stuff to lay out on you guys. IMDb refers to this as an adventure, drama, horror. Those three.
I don't think I'd call it an adventure, honestly. I don't think that's
So
fair.
here's the
I can see
interesting
the adventure part.
You think so?
I can see it because of the whole man versus nature aspect of it.
So here's the interesting one. On Wikipedia, it's referred to as a Western.
Yeah,
And when I read that, I was like, I really can see that.
that's a
though.
Western. That's
Yeah.
a Western. Total
God
Western.
damn it, how could you say something so controversial yet so right? But no, it really could be, because that's very similar tropes.
Yeah, it's the Australian West,
Yeah.
basically, is what it is.
And to break down rape revenge just a little bit, since it is probably something we'll refer to a bunch, that was a subgenre of exploitation cinema that was particularly popular in the 1970s. They often follow the same three-act blueprint that involves a woman who ends up raped or tortured, then seeks rehabilitation of some kind, and then eventually and ultimately pursues revenge against her tormentors.
Yeah, so think I Spit on Your Grave, or They Call Her One Eye, those types of movies.
Also, really hard to watch.
Most of them are, yeah. And there's a whole other conversation we could have about, the morality of that and how exploitative it is, and is that okay? Is it a good idea?
Well, and then another interesting film came along a couple years ago. I think it was just called Revenge,
Yeah.
right? Which basically subverted that genre, flipped it up on its head.
Well, see, I wanted to bring that up because that was directed by a woman.
Exactly.
And that's kind of a big shift, because all of these rape revenge films, especially in the 70s, they're all directed by men. And that definitely maybe colors some of their presentation, I would say.
And my wife actually said, so she didn't really want to watch this one with me, and I don't blame her at all. But she actually made the comment. She's like, I just have a problem. She didn't know that this was a film directed by a woman. She said, I just have a problem with men directing rape scenes. And I get where she's coming from. I don't think that it's not possible, but I also get where she's coming from. And I was like, well, this one was actually directed by a woman. She said, okay, that's actually something that's notable that you should say about this film, because...
And I do think those scenes feel different in
They
The
do.
Nightingale compared to those ones like I Spit on Your Grave.
Sure.
They do. I think it's a touchy subject, because I don't want to say that no one is capable of touching on the same things, but we also had this conversation outside of it, like what feels authentic and what doesn't,
Yeah.
and also what feels appropriate and what doesn't. And so, we would firmly place I Spit on Your Grave and They Call Her One Eye in exploitation.
Yep,
We would
for
firmly place those in that category, because they truly are exploitation. Whereas The Nightingale...
But not without merit.
Oh, yeah.
No, I think there's still reason to watch them. But with The Nightingale, I don't even think you can closely put that in. Not even remotely the same tone or...
No. It's not exploitation, and it's a movie that explores a real horrible thing that actually happens.
Sure.
And yeah, it is a horrible thing, and it is hard to watch. But it's not like it happens to propel the story of a male character to get revenge. That's what we usually see.
Right.
The girlfriend in the fridge trope, right?
Right.
But this is much more, I don't know, more female-oriented.
So, basic premise of this film is we've got, I think it's late 1800s. It never actually sets the full time.
I think
but,
it was around 1825.
Oh,
from
early
what I read.
1800s,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
1825.
So we got early 1800s. Australia is still, or is currently kind of a penal colony
Yep.
at that time.
It's actually in what now today is Tasmania.
Okay.
It's Van Diemen's Land,
Yeah.
is what it was called then.
So we have our main character, Claire, and she is serving out her sentence for thievery. She's been purchased, essentially, by, I don't know the dude's rank. He was going for captain, but I don't, is it lieutenant?
I really can't remember.
It doesn't really matter.
Because fuck that guy.
He's a shitbag. But either way, he's basically stuck in the back. And Tasmania is like backwoods of backwoods of backwoods. So he's been given this troop there that he's supposed to command. And it's basically nobody. There's nothing going on there. So what the fuck is anybody going to do? And they're not a great British soldier group.
Right.
You know, they're all fucking around all the time, drunk all the time. But no one gives a shit because
They don't matter.
they don't matter. And so our captain, what's his fucking name? Asshole is his name.
Hawkins.
Hawkins,
Okay.
yeah.
All I know him as his dickbag or whatever. He essentially sees Claire in this prison camp and thinks she's beautiful and I guess has heard her sing at some point as well. And basically buys her sentence so that she has to come work out her sentence for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she had like 3 years left or something on her sentence. So she's doing stuff like scrubbing floors, cooking, serving in the tavern, kind of like, you know, servitude type things.
Which
But
was a pretty common thing back in the penal colony, apparently.
And I read an interesting thing about that, too, that a lot of the women that were sent there, their crimes or whatever they were being punished for were much less severe than the things the men had done. But it was this weird thing where they were trying to, like, balance the numbers out.
that's so strange.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention exploit the women.
Yeah.
The whole concept of the formation of Australia is strange anyway because there was no treaty signed.
Right.
That was unlike any of the other English colonies. They all had treaties that basically established rules there for what they could and could not do based on their colonization and what their goals were. And Australia didn't have that.
Right.
They didn't have a treaty at all. So it was just like, well, shit, do whatever the fuck you want to do kind of a thing. We're just going to throw the people here that don't matter. But Claire ends up meeting a man there and falling in love with him and basically getting married, has a baby with him, and I loved his character, her husband. They're both Irish.
Yep.
And so a good portion of their conversations are in Gaelic, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting dynamic, too, because Ireland has its own history.
Oh, with English, yeah.
With English.
Which turns into a big point of a big stickler for the film. But part where the story really starts to go horrifying and kind of leads us in is early on in the film. We see Captain Dickbag decide. I mean, he basically
He's not a captain yet. It's like Lieutenant Dickbag.
Lieutenant Dickbag. After they have Claire sing in front of all the troops and
Well, because everyone's gawking at her and harassing her, and
but the superior officer comes in to evaluate this troop, and Lieutenant Dickbag is hoping that he's going to get promoted to Captain Dickbag. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of putting on a show for the superior officer, and Claire sings, and I mean, she's absolutely beautiful voice.
Yeah.
I love the traditional songs that are in this film. Like, they're so...
And it's a hard scene, even though it's not like nothing terrible is happening, but it's like it's very beautiful the way it's presented, her performance, and then it'll cut to the crowd.
Yeah.
And all the soldiers are just sneering and
leering, slovenly, drunken bastards.
It's like fuck, dude. It's like you can't even appreciate this for what it is.
Right. It reminds
she's purely
me
an object to them.
of the scene in Tombstone when Billy Zane is acting out his Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And all of the cowboys are sitting there like hooping,
they're shooting their guns,
hooping and hollering and everything. Like it's that, but more sinister. You know, like it's disgusting.
That's a good comparison to make.
But after that performance, Lieutenant Dickbag has her come into his office, and
she asks about his letter of recommendation to sort of like end her sentence there,
right?
Which he's been promising,
and he just keeps like gaslighting her essentially, and then when she makes him mad because she calls him out on his bullshit, he just straight up rapes her.
And I'm pretty sure the implication is this isn't the first time either.
Yeah, I get that impression.
It's very very implied that this is a normal thing for him. God, I don't want to hang on this. Because
let's not, but we do need to talk about it a little bit, because this is where, when you compare it to other rape revenge films, I think there's something special here that's different in a lot of other ones. And just the way it's presented, like, it's very clinical, I think. And for that reason, I think it is much more emotionally impactful when you watch it.
Yeah, I think so. There's every bit of how this scene is filmed is to make you see how horrible this is.
Yeah, I don't think there's any like real nudity at all.
No,
but we're a lot of close-ups of Claire's face.
Her face just looks dead, basically.
Yeah, and it's just you're just seeing the anguish.
And while I absolutely hate the character of Lieutenant Dickbag,
he's a great actor.
The actor was phenomenal. Like, how I was sitting there as I was watching this the second time, I was like, how on earth do you even play that?
Sam Claflin, I think his name is.
He did a good job, even though it is a terrible character.
Like, how do you get in that headspace?
Those are the hardest ones to play, though, and the riskiest ones, because you have a risk of being typecast if you're playing a villain like that.
Oh, because God, and Jennifer Kent did such a great job too of like the way she framed that scene, the anger on his face is just. So that's why I think it was so important to put this disclaimer before this episode, because this could be something that somebody listening has very much experienced and could bring up a lot of memories and things that you don't need to think about. But I think that's what sets this apart. Is there's none of the tropes of the exploitation of like the people laughing about it. This wasn't anything,
or them just like screaming and wailing.
No, this was quiet. It was sad. It was horrible, and there's just anger there. So, but her response at this point is just, this happened. I'm going to go back to my husband. We're going to continue to try to convince him to give us our letters. Follow the rules,
basically.
Yeah, don't cause trouble. Just do what we have to do. This is something I've endured. Let's do it.
Right, and of course he's all pissed off. His character's name is Aiden, I believe.
Yeah.
He's all pissed off, of course, because they've been promising freedom and everything.
At this point, he doesn't even know that Claire's been raped by him.
Right.
I think he suspects.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to not suspect.
When she comes back to him, isn't she roughed up a little bit? And he kind of asks her about it.
Yeah, and she says, I fell. Yeah, it was a handprint on her neck.
Yeah.
So now, basically, Aiden is saying, well, I'm going to go talk to him.
Right. And the next day he confronts him.
And she's like,
go well.
Yeah, it does not.
But this is Aiden trying to talk to him in a man-to-man fashion of, you promised me this, you need to let me go. And we don't see it happen. Like, we just see it from a distance. We don't get dialogue or anything. But the body language is so important there that you know. And we get the sense that Aiden's a hothead anyway.
Right.
And that Claire's afraid he's just going to wallop the shit out of him. Which
happens.
Up happening. Because that next night, that same night, they're all drinking at the tavern, and Aiden shows up, and he's been drinking himself.
Oh, and between this is when the issue happens about the promotion, right? Before the confrontation?
Yes. Basically, I do actually love the scene where Lieutenant Dickbag is sitting in his office, and the superior comes in and basically is like, you know, I've seen nothing but shit here.
Yeah.
These men are horrible.
Yeah, there's no discipline. They're all rowdy.
And I think at one point during this scene, one of the guys is running naked.
Yeah.
One of the troops is just out in the field running naked around with his red coat on, which that killed me. I thought it was hilarious.
And what I like about this scene, and it makes a good parallel, is the way that the visiting officer treats him is the same way that he has treated Claire about releasing her sentence. Because she's, put in the time, he promised it to her, and then it's time now and he won't do it. And then for him, it's like, he's put in the time here in this backwater place, he's done the best he can with these troops, he thinks that he's done all the work and that he's now owed this promotion.
Right.
And then he's denied it as well.
And in reality, he hasn't done anything for these troops. Like,
and that's the difference, is that Claire has put in the time. Yeah,
you watch him, his interaction with the troops, that his own... I think we should mention the guy's name.
Roos?
Yeah. That's like his right-hand man.
Yes, he's a sergeant, I believe. Sergeant Roos.
Which the actor who plays him is fucking phenomenal.
Damon Harriman.
He also plays Charles Manson in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And Mindhunter.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Nice.
Yeah, good stuff.
And he's, of course, Dewey Crow in Justified, which I
Yeah.
love him as. He's a fantastic actor. I
great.
really love everything he does.
He plays a great villain here.
An unlikely villain.
Mm-hmm.
A villain. He's just like Captain Dickbag is such a dickbag. Then he's such a bully. He's just such a bully to everyone around him that he's. I mean, everyone's just like, fine, just let him do whatever he wants to do. But no, he's the one who does the work,
Right.
for all the soldiers. But he's not in charge. You know, they don't listen to him.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he's very much the dickbag, as you say. I can't remember his name now.
Hawkins.
He's
Hashtag Captain Dickbag.
You get the impression he's very much that entitled, probably born from a good family. You know, he is an officer after all.
Join the British Army thinking he's going to make something of himself and gets stuck in a... So now Lieutenant Dickbag is getting drunk in the tavern because of how much he's realized his life is not going to be what he thought it was going to be. And Aiden shows up. And Aiden's been drinking. And Aiden's now going to confront him. You need to let her go. And that's basically what he tells him, is you need to let her go.
Yeah.
And then they get in a fist fight, which I fucking love that fight. Because Captain Dickbag starts handing his ass to him a little bit. You know, because Aiden doesn't want to let loose on him, because if he kills him...
That's a whole other problem.
They're all fucked.
Yeah.
But God, that headbutt is so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he's wailing on Aiden, and Aiden just, like, catches his hand and just headbutts the shit out of his face. And the look of horror on Hawkins' face is just like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like, I can't win this fight.
Right.
And two, like someone like Hawkins, where everything about them is sort of the pride and the status of their position, to be embarrassed like that in front of your other soldiers and stuff.
Yep.
It's just everything is adding onto this, and so that's when Hawkins and his dudes go to Claire and Aiden's shack, essentially.
Yeah, they went back to their hut, and they're planning on just running away.
They have to. That's the only thing they can do now.
Right.
And then that's where Hawkins hatches the plan that they're going to march to the nearby town and kind of plead his case.
Right, they're going to head north.
And the best way is through the rough country to get there as quickly as possible.
And it's when they're getting ready for that, they notice that Claire and her husband are preparing to leave.
Yeah. Because her husband has a horse. He has his own horse that he worked hard for, which apparently, I mean, I'm guessing that not many prisoners had that.
No.
So they actually had the means to get away. But that's when the one of the most horrifying scenes of the film happens. And
probably the one you had to fast forward through.
It
this
is.
time, right?
It is the one I had to fast forward through. So as Aiden tries to stop them, they end up shooting Aiden, and killing him. And that's when Hawkins rapes Claire again, but now in front of his other soldiers, the two other soldiers he's brought with him. And the baby is crying the entire time.
And let alone, don't forget the like doom porn moment of this. That, like before he even kills Aiden, he like brings up everything about how he's been raping Claire.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which incites Aiden to try to kill him.
Which is like
Rightfully
maximum
so.
just like emotional despair.
Yeah.
Which is also one of the things, too, that I probably the reason I didn't remember that as much is because I did skip through this scene. And I did fast forward through it because I'd seen it once. But because the baby that they have together is crying and screaming the entire time, Hawkins says, "Shut that baby up, or I will."
And that involves the third character we've not brought up yet, which is Ensign Jago,
Yeah.
played by Harry Greenwood.
Just a complete, foot soldier, no ranking, no standing, just whatever he's told to do, he has to do.
He's young, he's got his whole life ahead of him, and he makes the wrong choice here.
Extremely wrong.
I almost thought at first it was going to be one of these things where, like, he would kind of be to the side and, like, see all of this and eventually maybe have a change of heart.
Yeah.
But he pretty quickly just goes down that same road with them.
Right.
And he grabs the baby and slams it against the wall.
Yep.
And kills their baby. And that's why...
And this is when Roos is also raping.
Yeah, they
Claire.
basically, he's... This scene is absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
It is...
It's as horrible as the act. It's
it-
showing it for the awful thing it is.
And because of the way it's shot, I think it's important. Because this completely takes out any of that exploitation
Right.
thought of it. Like, this is just full on, I don't want to be watching this. And
nobody would, but it happens. And
Right, it does.
That's the point of the way she's depicted it.
Right.
So once this scene is over, Claire's basically left now with husbandless, childless, and she's the only thing that consumes her now is like, I've got to get him.
Yeah. She went to the authorities.
Right. They barely did anything.
Right. They did nothing. So she decides, I got to take matters into my own hands.
So that's when there's a big shift in the film, I think.
This is when sort of the Western elements come into play.
Yeah. And I also think it's a shift in tone and a shift in message. Mm-hmm. Because now we get into the relationship between the colonizers and the indigenous people of... so we were talking about this beforehand. You might see them called Aboriginal people oftentimes, or some people might call them Aborigine, which is technically an offensive term. So I think for the majority of this podcast, we'll probably call them like the indigenous peoples of Australia, which essentially is exactly what they are. They lived there before the colonizers came. There's also so many tribes and so many different people there that like calling, we just want to try to make sure we put the right term.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also for further historical context, this was during what was known as the Black War, when basically the English were slaughtering all the indigenous people.
I think they changed the name of that too, didn't they? Didn't they call it the Frontier War?
I think it's had a couple different names.
Yeah.
That was the most common one I've come across, so it'd probably be the easiest to find if anyone wanted to research it.
Sure, I think it's worth reading about because I think it's definitely something that you should know happened.
Oh, yeah.
But it's essentially a lot of the same things that happened in the American West and the treatment of Native American and indigenous people here.
Sure.
Same thing happened. In Australia and Tasmania.
Yeah, so it's part of a larger set of wars that are just called the Australian Frontier Wars.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think it was estimated that like over 20,000 indigenous people died or something in these wars. It's a large number, but I do encourage you to read on this. But essentially now what is happening is the English will hire indigenous people as trackers and guides through the bush and the rough.
Yeah, because they know the land that the English are taking from them.
Yeah, exactly. And there are marked trails and everything, but these trails are still really, really rough. Yeah. This is still like trailblazing.
It's an extremely remote area.
And so now Claire needs to find a tracker as well, who leads her to Billy.
Yes.
Ooh, God, he was so good in this. I had really struggled to pronounce his name.
Bekali Ganambar. I hope that's right.
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, he steals the movie.
Yeah, the second he shows up, you can't help but just absolutely love him.
He brings an entire different feeling and air to the entire film just by being there.
Absolutely, because the other Lieutenant Dickbag's tracker is an older man, and essentially they call them boy.
Yeah.
All the time, and they refer to them as my black. Just every interaction towards an indigenous person is just demeaning.
And this is something I love about this movie, and was great on Jennifer Kent's part, is that Claire has no more love for the indigenous people than the English. She treats him poorly. She calls him names.
Right.
Doesn't trust him at all.
Because that's the culture, and that's all she's known.
Right, exactly. Because it is 1825.
And after everything that's been done to her, and the way she's been treated, even before this, being treated as Irish. She still doesn't get it. She still just doesn't fucking get it.
But that would have been very appropriate at its time.
It would.
It's very tempting to make her this sort of saint.
Right.
Who just accepts everyone and is, lovely and nice, but that's not really true to the period or the point that Jennifer Kent's trying to make with this movie.
And I love that she highlights that.
Yeah.
I love that she does, because while we always try to say, when we're discussing racism in modern times and comparing it to historical accounts of racism, we always want to say, I wouldn't have been like that.
Right.
I wouldn't have been like that.
But it's easy to sit now and say that.
Right. Because literally all she's ever known is people shitting on someone else, including herself. But now Claire gets the point of view that she can take the high road. She's always been shit on, but in the same way that Lieutenant Dickbag hands the shit down that he gets, she's now like, okay, well, now I'm in the... of course I'm better than you.
That's the attractive thing about racism, isn't it?
Right.
You're always better than someone else. You know, no matter how lowly your station, you're still better than they are.
It's so... But that's where the tone really does shift in this film, and the message changes, because everyone knows, like, the assault and the rape are wrong and horrible, and no one wants to see that, and everyone can agree this is terrible. But now they start putting this gray lens on everything that, okay, well, why is the racism different? And you look at when Hawkins treats the indigenous people terribly, we're like, well, you know he's going to do it because he's horrible.
We've already been shown that he's a terrible person.
But now that Claire does it, you're like, oh shit, well, now I have trouble. I kind of have trouble rooting for Claire because of how horrible she is.
Well, I think it also humanizes her.
It does, yeah.
And that's one of the points I think of this segment of the film is kind of their relationship, and not in a romantic way, which is another good thing I think they avoided here, but that she starts to actually understand him as an actual person and not just this like false sort of like, oh, all you people are this way.
Exactly, yeah.
Kind of like screen that she has up.
And I think Billy senses early on from, first meeting her that something horrible's happened to her. And she basically just says, I have to catch them because I have to catch up to my husband.
Right, she lies.
And doesn't tell Billy, like, I'm going on a revenge bender and I'd like you to lead me the way.
He may not be so inclined to go to kill English officers.
Basically, even when he finds out that something's up, he's like, I don't want any trouble.
Yeah.
I can't.
Right.
They'll kill me.
Without batting an eye, they'd kill him.
But it's hard to state, like, as terrible, like, emotionally as this film is, there's so many funny moments with him.
Sure, yeah.
Where, like, he'll be leading her somewhere, and then people show up, and she'll turn around, and he'll just be gone.
Yeah,
he already knows. He's like, nope, I'm out.
He's like a ninja, just out of there.
Well, and I think it's... how important, though, of what Jennifer Kent's trying to say of that in society is, like... And that happens now with... racism that people experience every day is like in a situation that shows up like I'm out, I'm just going to duck out because I know there's no way out of this there's no way this is going to end well for me, so I'll duck out and then I'll show back up when it's a safer moment. And so all the time she thinks he's just abandoned her, but no, he's literally watching through the whole thing, just through the bush. And but it's just the treatment of every single person they come across, the treatment towards the indigenous people is so horrible.
Oh, yeah.
And
it really happened. I mean, that's the horrible part.
Oh, yeah.
It's showing the truth.
And honestly, in Australia, it was happening up into the 20th century. Like,
well, some people might say it's still happening everywhere.
Absolutely.
Is it government sanctioned anymore? No, but I mean, there's still...
Once you already put the wheel in motion, it's hard to slow it down.
Right. Like, the population of indigenous peoples in most of the populated cities of Australia is really low. Like, most of the people still remaining live in the Northern Territory. And that, to me, when I was reading about that and trying to learn it, the most... relatable thing I could think of was like Native American reservations, and the same things happen there.
Exact same story, just as terrible.
Education, healthcare, mental health, drug addiction, violence, like all the same shit, just different place. It's like no one ever fucking learns. But to continue on with the movie and not get on my...
so they do start to get more of appreciation for one another. As there's a little different vignettes where they kind of get through different stuff.
They run into some different people.
And he starts to open up more to her about his culture and tells him that his name is actually Mangana.
Yeah.
Which in their language means blackbird.
Yeah. I love when he sings a traditional song, too, about Mangana. And she's just so fucking annoyed, which I love because... she's known for her voice.
Yeah.
She's known for singing these songs, and now someone else is singing their cultural song of their history.
And she can't see the beauty in it.
Yeah, she can't. When I just love watching him sing. Like, I love everything about...
Yeah, he really comes alive when he's doing that, and he's flapping his arms like a bird.
And he's basically just showing the beauty of their culture and everything about them that's great. And then I love when he talks about that everything, we can do this the right way. Like, I can get us food. They essentially have to go steal from someone. And he's like, well, I can get us food, but it's going to take me a while. Like, I need to make a spear. I need to say the prayers.
Yeah, if you want to hurry up, we're just going to have to steal it.
Yeah. And once she sees, like, okay, well, he says, I'm not going to do it your way. The white man way's bad. And absolutely beautiful scene when he does go hunt. and he brings back, I think it was a wallaby.
Yeah.
And the sincerity that he treats the animal to me really got me. Like, he's petting it, thanking it, talking about how good of a creature it is. And just, you see the difference between them and everyone else. Yeah. His respect for life is just beyond.
Right. And it's also during this segment where he tells her kind of what his actual like wish or dream is that he would do if he had the capability, which is to head north and kind of link up with the rest of his people and just live there with them and kind of give up on this whole like tracker job thing.
Well, and to note, his actual people, like his true family, are dead. Mm-hmm. The English have killed them. And so I think he has an auntie that's left.
Yep.
And that's it. That's the only person he knows, and he doesn't even know for sure if she's there. But essentially, I'll go live with people who think the way I do and believe the way I do. So we eventually get.
Meanwhile, what's Hawkins up to?
Yeah.
Horrifying things.
Hawkins and his group now run into an indigenous woman and her child. Mm-hmm. Basically just gathering.
And you would think since they're in such a hurry, the solution here is that they should just ignore that and keep on their way.
Yeah, no, the solution that they end up coming up with is that they're going to tie her up and use her as a toy. And basically everyone rapes her as well. Horrible. Like, these people have a chance to make a right decision and they never fucking do it. Nope. And just remind you how horrible they are at every turn.
And the worst thing about this, too, is they've drafted in some extra people to help, like, pack supplies.
Right.
Yeah, the prisoners.
And one of them is this little kid. And for whatever reason, Hawkins takes, like, an interest in him that he wants to, like, kind of mentor him a little bit.
It's the same. I've personally felt it was the same control he could have over someone like Claire.
I can see that. Yeah.
But Claire is smart enough and has been around enough to know you're full of shit. Mm-hmm. But this kid has the opportunity to look at Hawkins like a god. And if I do what this guy tells me to do and I try to be more like him, I can get out of the situation.
Yeah, I think Eddie is the kid's name.
Mm-hmm. Cute little kid.
Yeah, good actor.
Yeah, plays it really well. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's very innocent. It's hard to look at him and think anything bad of him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
However, abducting this woman does have its consequences. Because, of course, people are going to look for her.
Right, and they even try to tell him this. Mm-hmm. Like, he basically says, if one person is there, the rest of the people are not far behind. Mm-hmm. And they do. They come looking for her, and they find them.
And, man, when there's actually violence, like people fighting in this film, it is so fucking brutal.
It's visceral, yeah.
Just one of them, like, throws a spear, and you just barely see it for a second, and then it's just like, thunk.
It was in the dude's neck, wasn't it? Yeah.
He just drops.
Now, our other guy, the one who actually killed the baby... Jago gets a spear in the leg. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. And they just abandon him.
Yeah,
they're all running away because the woman they abduct, he just shoots her right in front of her husband.
Yeah.
Just out of, like, pettiness. Just out of spite more than anything. Because that was only... And he had to know that was only going to enrage them more.
Right.
But it's
disgusting.
The fucking entitlement of, like, it's my right to do this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. God
but yeah, so for all of Jago's loyalty to Hawkins, they just abandon him first chance.
So Jago starts basically Jagoing off into the...
Oh, God.
Sorry. Not Jagoing very well with a bum leg, are you, Jago? Starts basically wandering through the bush. He has nowhere he's going. And Claire and Billy end up stumbling across them because they're close. Mm-hmm. They're never that far behind them.
Right.
And that's when Claire's like, oh, shit, it's time. One thing I absolutely loved about this, too, was that Claire was not proficient with firearms.
No.
But she has a rifle with her the whole time, and it's almost her sense of power.
Right. She thinks if she just points it at people, that will, like, get them to do whatever.
Right. But they never made a point to show that she knows how to use a firearm, so I assume that she doesn't. And so Billy knows how to use it and helps her get it loaded and everything, but she goes to shoot Jago, and she's point blank at him. You know, like...
And that's also something I like about this, because we cannot, not exactly identify, but we understand to a degree what Claire is going through here, and our lust for vengeance is almost as great as hers.
Yeah, as an audience member, yeah.
But in real life, even if the person deserves it, it's a hell of a thing to kill another man. Right?
It's very, very hard. And that's where this gets different from those rape revenge films, because a lot of those, the final act, when the woman comes out of it, she is sort of like this almost like spirit of vengeance.
Yeah, she's transformed.
Where she's a badass, she can use any weapon, and just like mows through people.
Mm-hmm. But as you say, she's a clumsy shot.
She takes the shot, but when the gun kicks, she just like half drops it and shoots him in his leg again. So he drops, pulls a knife. But I also love that she just switched and bashed the shit out of him with the butt of the gun, which was just, it's all of her rage now has built up.
It's just exploding
and exploding on this guy.
She takes a knife. He does not die easily.
No. She ends up stabbing him like over and over and over again.
And the sad thing is that he really deserved worse still, but...
Yeah, I think he did. But the thing is now Billy has seen this.
He finally knows that it's not just... I want to catch up to my husband.
Right, and Billy says, what did he do to you to make you kill him that bad? To make you do that to him? And that's when she has to open up.
Yeah.
And you can tell in that moment, depending on what she says, he might leave her.
Right, because he knows that tying himself to her in this revenge story is a death sentence for him. He knows it.
But when he hears the story...
Yeah.
He decides to stay in the end.
Because it's so... I think it's
like his own story.
Yeah, it mirrors him. Everything that he's experienced... she has gone through as well. And even though she treats him like shit, he still sees that he doesn't want someone else to go through what he went through.
Right.
So he does link himself to her, and essentially is like, I'll help you get him. I'll help you track him. I'm kind of from where we go from there. I mean, it's a lot of kind of back and forth of them tracking.
Hawkins gets into trouble because after they kill the indigenous people in front of their tracker, he takes them off path.
Yeah.
Right,
Uncle Charlie, yeah.
That's right. And Charlie was a common name that was given to a lot of indigenous people at that time.
Right.
And so, but he basically is like, yeah, we'll get there quicker if we go this path.
Yeah, he takes up this big mountain hill.
And they're almost like vertical at times.
Yeah.
How steep it is.
And he's like, yeah, we'll just get to the top and you'll be over. Meanwhile, Claire and Billy come across and Billy's like, they went this way. No one goes this way.
Yeah, why would they
like,
go this way?
Why would they go this way?
Hey, we can just go this way easily and
round
them off.
Charlie tells him, you're screwed. Find your own way. I'm out of here.
Once they basically make it to the top of this mountain thing, like you can see they're fucked.
Yeah.
And I love what he says to him too, where he's like, "You look out, you can see all this land. This is all yours now. You can stay up here and it's yours."
Yeah, congratulations.
But unfortunately, they end up shooting.
Yeah,
and killing.
Bruce off them in anger.
Yeah. Well, and he shot him not even thinking about the fact that now what do we do? But it's because Charlie stood up to Hawkins and said, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
You're not going to treat us like this. I have a choice, and I'm not doing this. And Ruth shoots him before he even thinks about his actions. Like, that's how dispensable they thought of the indigenous people.
Yeah.
Because immediately Hawkins is upset because he's like, oh, crap, that's our tracker. What do we do now? You didn't think about that. And his response is, well, he was insulting you.
Yeah, he has to die.
It's like, so what? We're lost out here.
But
then he gives the kid the pistol.
Yeah.
Has it trained on Roos.
He basically tells the kid, this guy's a fuck up.
Yeah.
Why don't you...
Shoot him if he does anything stupid.
He makes the kid like second in command, basically.
Yeah.
But the sad thing is the look in the kid's eyes is like, I'm going to be somebody now.
Yeah.
He just doesn't understand what's going on.
No. But at this point now, though, Charlie is dead. But the important thing is that Billy and Claire have caught up now. And they're actually watching this interaction go down. And Billy sees them kill Charlie. And Charlie was very special to Billy just because he's an elder. He's someone who represents his life, his culture.
That connection to their past.
Right. And I guess he thinks, like, one, I don't want to end up like Charlie. I don't want to be old and leading the shitty English through this place. And that's when we see the shift in Billy. I think Billy is now no longer just committed to helping Claire. He's committed to...
It's for himself.
Yeah, it's
he,
for
he
him.
wants revenge now.
And they botched this. Claire botches it for them.
She freezes up.
Yeah.
She has him in her sights with a musket and just I mean, like I said, it's hard to kill people.
Yeah,
And that's that contrast. You look at the classical rape revenge film. It's like they get there and they just fucking off the guy.
Right.
And this, she gets there, and it's finally that moment that all her things have been building to this one time to shoot Hawkins, take him out, and she hesitates.
Yeah.
Because she's already dealing with the fallout of how she's feeling about killing Jago.
Mm-hmm. She has a lot of regret. It didn't... truly, when you undertake something like this revenge, you don't get any comfort out of it.
Yeah, you think you would, but it's not there. And I think she realizes that if she continues down this path, no matter how she feels, she's going to lose every bit of herself.
Yeah, and she's not a monster.
No.
Like Lieutenant Dickbag is.
Yeah.
You know?
It's been a while since we've called him that, so we should bring it back.
Refresh that.
We need a counter for the number of times.
But Hawkins straight up shoots Claire in the arm.
Yep.
No hesitation.
Yeah, no, he's
Just immediately.
That's what happens. You don't have a conscience. You don't have a problem killing people.
God. But because of this, Claire runs away. Her and Billy end up getting separated.
Yeah, they split up.
And they capture him to be their guide.
Yeah. Which why the fuck would you think he's going to do something for you? But he does. He does lead them back off of the mountain.
I think he knows that Claire will still...
Yeah, I think he does
comprehend.
it for Claire. I think he's doing it to get them away from Claire, and if he just draws them away. Mm-hmm. But then, once he gets them back, Hawkins is done with him. Mm-hmm. And he basically tells the little kid to off him.
Yeah.
And I was terrified at this point, because I was afraid the kid was going to off him, because at the tone of this movie, it wouldn't surprise me.
No.
It wouldn't surprise me if that's where we're going to go, is this kid...
I was getting nervous in that scene.
Yeah.
'Cause I had no idea where this was going to go.
Well, and the kid rightfully couldn't do it.
Right. Billy runs off.
Yeah, Billy gets away. But then Hawkins takes the pistol away from the kid, and the kid's pleading to him
Yeah, he's like, I'm sorry, don't leave me.
I'll kill the next one.
Yeah.
I'll kill the next one. And what does Hawkins do?
Turns around and shoots him, man.
Fucking kills the kid.
This guy.
I hate
And he says
him.
something about the annoying sound he was making or something. It's like with the baby
exact
earlier.
same thing with the baby,
he's-
right.
Yeah, I just hate that annoying sound.
I couldn't deal with the sound of it, yeah. Well, at this point now they've made it to the village. They made it to the town they're going for. Claire ends up getting pity on her, basically, from somebody and catches a ride into town.
And notably, a woman in the carriage
Yeah.
pays the driver to allow Claire to ride on the back.
Interesting scene, I thought, because
Yeah.
it's still this...
Right, because at first they just kind of shoo her off.
Yeah. But we still have this, sorry, I'm shaking my hand. I realize you can't see that. This pithy, this poor child, don't get near me, but I'll do the right thing, and give you a ride. The other notable scene soon is that Billy and Claire do end up meeting back up, and they realize that they're both still alive, and they're picked up by this older couple. That I'm really conflicted on them.
Well, the old man takes pity on them.
Right.
And he's like, get on the wagon. And his wife is just scowling. I love the wife. All she does is just scowl at Billy the entire time. And Claire.
You can make one of those super cuts where it's like several scenes and it's just the same face.
Yeah,
the whole
same
time.
face,
Yeah.
exactly.
The old man, while he takes pity, the racism is still there. Even though he's the kindest character we've come across, yet in the entire film, aside from Billy.
Well, yeah, I mean, they take him home. Billy's sitting on the floor at first.
They're going to feed them,
Yeah,
bathe them. He said you could do with a bath and
the
and
wife
food.
puts food down in front of him on the floor, but he gets up. He says, come to the table. Billy is not moving. He picks up his food. Billy eventually comes to the table. And that's a very powerful performance.
Billy breaks down
Yeah.
because the weight of everything he's just seen and experienced has hit him, and he just bawls.
Yeah, he's like, this is my land.
Yeah, this is... Oh, that scene's so hard, but so important, and I think really drives home. Like, you came here. This is where I live.
Right.
Like, I didn't do shit to
And
you.
now you deign to let me sit at your
It
table.
shouldn't be that they pity him to put him at the table.
Right. So I'm really conflicted on those characters.
Well, the old man
because-
never talks much. I mean, I get the impression he's probably of some religious sect.
Yeah,
it's
it kind
probably
of
a bit
reminds
more
me
tolerable.
of a Puritan type thing.
Yeah.
But still...
It's almost like I'm going to help them because it's the right thing to do. He's not even thinking about the, I guess, social, political angles of it at all.
Right.
But he's still, like, the way he looks at them is honestly, I don't want to offend.
It's a little holier than thou.
Yeah,
I'll say it.
Well, I didn't want to offend. You chose the right words, though, because oftentimes when you see people of faith choosing to do something to help somebody, it's like, well, are you worthy of my help?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if I think that I feel he ever really cares about their story or what they're going through so much as he's just...
It's for himself, lot of like...
He's like, I should help them.
Yeah, and it's the right thing to do, so I'll do it.
Mm-hmm. But sadly, as you say, he's one of the kinder characters we meet in this movie.
Still,
so take what you can.
Yeah.
And I love that scene where they're sleeping in the other room, and the husband and wife are on their bed, and the wife is still scowling, looking at them. That's great.
Jennifer Kent does do a great job of interjecting some moments of humor
little
just
levity.
to kind of break up the
you have to.
weight of
It'd be
the
too
film.
much if you didn't. You got to release that tension every few minutes.
So they end up I think they're trying to get Bessie back, right? The horse.
Yes, was that the name of the horse?
Well, the old couple ends up taking them into town and basically trying to help them get back.
Right, and they see the horse.
And they see Bessie. Well, we haven't talked that much about Bessie, but Bessie is basically Claire's tie to Aiden.
Yeah.
Right?
It was his horse.
It was, while we may just look at it as a horse, it's important to her because that's her tie to what she's lost.
And it's a good horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had that never-ending story moment when she was trying to pull her out of the mud, the horse out of the mud. And
I got nervous there, too.
I did, too.
No.
I was like, oh, man.
Don't kill the horse.
The horse is fine. The horse lives.
Don't worry.
But they basically tell Billy, as long as you're with her, they shouldn't give you trouble here.
Right.
Which is a fucking lie. Maybe they didn't kill him on sight, but Billy still has to hide.
Right.
Everywhere he goes. Like, he can't be seen with her. And at this point, Claire sees Hawkins there. Mm-hmm. And
now Captain Dickbag.
There is one thing we should talk about before they get into the city, though. They have an encounter just outside with some slavers that have some of the indigenous people chained up, marching them along. And they kind of are talking to Claire like she owns Billy.
Because Claire said, give me the gun. Put your hands in front of you. Like, she
they're
knows.
They're kind of bluffing him.
She knows where this is going.
She tells them that he's been stealing from their farm, and she's taking him in to kill him, basically. Mm-hmm.
And these fuckers believe it.
But the cool part is, well, it's not cool, but the interesting part of this scene is that the other indigenous people that are there, they start talking to Billy in their language.
What tribe are you from? You know.
And when they find out the tribe, they tell him, well, all of them are dead. There's no one left. You are the last one. And you can see his face just sink in that moment.
He's got nothing to hope for.
And that's where...
And then
I love
to cap it off.
I love it so much.
To cap off that scene, then one of the prisoners starts to yell.
Oh, yes. So basically, it's like, fuck you. Yeah. Everything about you, like, turns to the English. And
they just gun him down.
They just fucking shoot him.
All of them shoot them. And I think God, to even add insult to injury, one of them's like, you promised me a head. You said I could have a trophy.
And he takes this big old knife and they don't show it, thankfully. But
you know what's happening, but it's just like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Like, how is everyone so awful? And you want to think, like, this is exaggerated for film, but it's fucking not.
It's not. It happened in this country.
It's awful.
I thought about it when doing research for this. When you think of, like, historical films and period pieces, often the trend is that you want to kind of, like... shave off those edges and be like, well, it wasn't that bad.
Or like Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Rose-tinted glasses. It wasn't that bad.
And this does the exact opposite, where it's like, no, this is what happened. It's fucking awful.
It's ugly. It's
Look
horrible.
at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think it's too, and I think you make a good point, look at it. Mm-hmm. Because the most common thing we want to do about racism and treatment of indigenous people, and honestly, poor treatment of anybody, is we want to look away. Mm-hmm. If I don't look at it, it's not happening.
Right.
Or if I just put these glasses on and look at it, so it's not quite as bad as what I thought it was, it's not really as bad as what I thought it was.
I think that's why a lot of people say stupid stuff like racism's over. There's no more racism in the USA.
Right.
Maybe they don't see it on a daily basis, but why would they?
Yeah, or saying, like, I don't see color. Well, are you looking? Are you looking at things? Are you looking at the world?
Yeah. I mean, if you're surrounded by other people of your own color or whatever, you're probably not going to see the racism.
Right.
You know?
And I think it's interesting that Jennifer Kent chose to do this film next.
Compared to the Babadook, yeah.
Because she could have done anything. She could have stuck to just, like, the Babadook has its own message, firmly implanted in it. But I don't want to say it's a safer message. but it's a lot more digestible.
I think it's easier for people to approach that one.
Right.
It also used the metaphor with the monster.
Right.
Well, this doesn't.
No,
I mean, there's no
human,
metaphor.
The humans
Yeah.
are the fucking monster.
Right.
And so I think she used her platform. She hasn't done anything since this, right?
I don't think so.
Well, COVID, I'm sure, put the kibosh on a lot of projects.
Yeah.
But I hope that she stays more or less independent.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
all these studios are, I've talked about this before, but they're all scooping up these indie directors that are pretty popular, and then they
Yeah.
just do crap.
Right.
You know, and it's not the director's fault, because when a studio puts $200 million behind the movie, they're going to be calling all the shots.
Right,
you know?
you've got some obligations there you have to follow.
Ugh.
Like, I just love that she was coming off of the success of the Babadook, and everybody's like, oh, Jennifer Kent, like, she's going to be the next huge horror director. And she's like, I don't want to do that again.
Right.
I want to draw attention to this. And uses her platform to do that, and that's fucking ballsy.
Yeah.
Like, to put this movie out right afterwards, that is probably going to piss a lot of people off.
Oh, I mean, and you've seen it too. If you go into like horror groups where they talk about this movie,
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of incels.
God,
Really?
Yeah.
I don't. For those of you out there, I don't do that. I don't go to the groups that much.
when
So
it
I
comes
don't
to
really
the
know what
podcast, that's mostly all me. I generally try to be pretty respectful to everybody.
Dustin is braver than I am.
But man, when you get in there, it's just whew.
I don't get that. Okay, anyway, that's a different conversation.
I'm just, in my mind, I'm thinking, like, how can you say bullshit like that about this movie? Like, how
Okay,
can...
as an example, what are people saying? I know it's not all the people. Most horror fans are cool. There's always that small contingent that's vocal, that says stupid shit.
Well, that's any fandom, really, in the end.
Right.
Well, I can almost guarantee you there's somebody who sympathizes with Hawkins.
I hope not. They should go to therapy if they do.
I haven't personally seen that, but, like, mostly it's... What I usually see about this film is just unnecessary shit talk about Jennifer Kent. And it's stuff unrelated to this.
There is something on Wikipedia about, at the 2018 Venice Film Festival,
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
an
We should talk
Italian
about
film
this.
critic shouted a sexist comment when Kit's name appeared in the credits. It was similar to the slurs used against the film's protagonist. And The Nightingale was the only film directed by a woman to be included in the festival's main competition. It doesn't say what he said.
Well,
I've got this one too. Yeah,
Dustin has one that's...
at the 2018 Toronto International Film Festival, a man was booed by the audience when during the Q&A he asked Jennifer Kent if she believed someone in the theater would have the intent to rape her after the screening finished. Kent and the cast were disgusted and did not offer an answer.
It's this kind of bullshit.
Like, who goes in
Right.
there to a Q&A and that's the question that you've got primed up, and
Yeah.
you literally fucking waste everyone's time to ask it.
Right.
And, like, anyone gives a...
Does anyone ask the director of John Wick if he thinks anyone's going to come out and shoot him after a screening of his movie?
I think there's still... When you talk about rape and you talk about sexual assault, and with the prevalence of the Me Too movement, it's almost like all of these men think they're talking to them. Okay?
Yeah.
Have you raped someone? If you
Right.
have, they're talking to you.
Yeah.
Have you sexually harassed or assaulted someone? They're fucking talking to you.
Right.
If not, then they're not talking to you.
Yeah.
You should not be offended because...
What are you feeling guilty about?
Just because
Yeah.
you got a dick and balls doesn't mean you're the
Right.
same as that guy.
Exactly.
So why are you so offended, and why do you feel the need to attack someone who's drawing...
No.
Yeah, sorry.
Well said. No,
Okay,
you're
so here we
absolutely
go.
right.
Here's a random pool from the internet.
Okay.
Half star.
Thank you.
This is just another white person learns that racism is bad actually story.
Wow.
Uh,
But this is the bullshit that... And this is why I bring up that I think it's so gutsy for her to do this movie and take what she... The clout that she got from the Babadook and say, no, I want to do something that means something to me.
Right.
I want to...
I think we also must acknowledge that we are three white dudes who are
Oh, yeah.
talking about, women getting raped and
yeah, but
indigenous people.
we get it, so what's everyone else's problem?
But also, my wife did make a good point that she said, also, you need to acknowledge the fact of how privileged you are as three white men who are
Right.
able to sit around.
What do we really know about this?
Exactly.
We don't know that
I
much
don't.
about this.
I don't. All I can do, and we talked about this too, like, when is something authentic?
Right.
And I think it was important that Jennifer Kent have people on set with her that are from indigenous cultures that can talk to her and try to help her understand no, this is what my people want.
And apparently they did have real advisors.
Yeah, I was doing research. They had indigenous people they were consulting. All of the language that Billy used, that was all like verified by people.
Nice.
All the history that he brings up. They even had psychologists on hand to get into sort of the PTSD that Claire would go through and to work with Aisling Francoisi.
I had trouble with her name.
Yeah.
I think it is Gaelic of some sort.
Great actress. Sorry, I messed up that name.
Franciosi,
Yeah, she consulted with a psychologist on set to really work through Claire's mentality and everything to portray that.
That's a tough place to go to, so yeah.
But how important is that, though, that... I mean, I shouldn't pose that as a question because I do think it's important that when you are going for representation, you need to include people that you're trying to represent. Mm-hmm. You can't just...
Sure.
Like, yes, Jennifer Kent was probably the best person to direct this film because it's her vision, it's what she wants to do, but she wants to tell a story, and because she is not a person that has gone through that, she wants to make sure that she gets people who can guide her to make the most authentic thing that she can.
Are you guys familiar with the character of Chakotay on Star Trek Voyager?
Yes.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Well, he's Native American, right?
Right.
So the showrunners hired a Native American who told them some of the background, some of the stories and histories that they could use for the show, so they could try to get representation. Yeah, it turns out he was making everything up.
Oh, gosh. Wow.
So,
Nice.
Very interesting.
you have to really, check on people's credentials sometimes.
Well,
but,
we derailed pretty heavily from the
we got to get back
the
to
final plot of the film. But
It's a heavy movie. We had to kind of detour a little.
That's our breakup to...
But we're at the end now.
Yes.
And once Claire confronts Hawkins and she sees Hawkins is like, you don't fucking die.
Yeah.
Like, that's the first thing.
And he's completely dismissive.
Yeah.
It's just...
And the implication is that he's either God or he's going to receive the promotion.
Yeah. I think he's going to receive it because they basically all but said, you got it.
Right.
Now we got to do ceremony. Come have a drink with us.
Yeah.
Which is important to note that it was actually, there's a line when she walks into the tavern and they say, you can't be here. Women were not actually allowed to drink in bars with men until almost the 60s or 70s in Australia.
Huh.
There's this great clip.
What?
There's this great clip.
You mean 1860s or 70s?
No.
Oh, God.
There's a great clip
Jeez.
of a female reporter when they actually finally get the right to go sit in a bar with men. And she's sitting there and she's talking to all these old fucking white dudes about, like, how does it make you feel that I'm sitting here with you? And he's like, honestly, I don't fucking like it. I don't like that you're here because why not and she's like, why? And he's like, because I want to use bad language. And she's like, because I'm a woman, you can't say bad language. And there's this absolute fucking unit of a dude in the back. And he's standing there like looking, wondering why they're doing this. And they're like, well, what do you think, sir? He's like, well, I don't give a fuck who's here as long as they drink, as long as I can drink. Anybody can fucking be here. And I'm like, this guy right here, this guy gets it. He's like, I don't give a shit who you are. Do I get my drink?
If you can find that on YouTube, I'll put it in the show notes.
Oh, I'll pull it back up because I watched it and that dude is just an absolute lad in the background. But yeah, they make the comment to her when she goes into the tavern to confront Hawkins in front of the superior.
Yeah.
And to basically embarrass him again. This is her letting go of Hawkins, though. She's not going to kill him now.
Right. She tells him off, basically.
And she sings him off.
Yeah, and then she sings.
Which
is
is
basically, I'm not your property. You don't own me.
More powerful than I think any monologue could have been.
Right.
She used
She decides to not let him have any more power over her.
Right.
Yeah.
And she used what he took from her. She used her voice.
Yeah.
To basically sing.
I'm still going to sing.
Yeah. That this is my freedom, and this is what I'm using it for.
And it's one of her Gaelic folk songs that she sings.
But when he says, you can't be in here, even the captain, the superior says, you can't be in here. Like, that's where that stems from, is that women weren't allowed in a public drinking place.
Okay, was anyone else here getting worried that we would not see him die at this point?
I was.
Because I was like...
I thought we were going to...
He still has to die. You still have to kill him.
I thought we were going to take the high road.
Yeah.
But thankfully...
I want blood.
Thankfully, Billy does not take the high road.
So it might be okay for Claire, but Billy has his own stake in this now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Billy's lost everybody. Mm-hmm. Billy is alone, but I fucking love that scene.
Yeah, he's like in his war paint and stuff. And,
He prepares. He does what his people did before they were going to do something serious. Mm-hmm. Before they were going to take a life of any kind.
Oh, there's a conversation they have, too, I really love in this build-up. And maybe before they get to the city, actually, I don't know, but she asks him, in your culture, do you have bad people sometimes?
Such a great...
And he says, yes, most people are good. Sometimes we do. That's just the way the world is. And she says, well, what do you do with your people whenever they're bad? And he says, well, first we try to talk to them.
The elders will go to them.
We try to show them the right way to be. We try to show them what they're doing that's wrong. And then she says, well, what do you do if you do that and they still don't listen? And he just says, then we kill them.
Like, there's no place for that in our society.
Yeah.
You're either...
And that was really one of the most powerful parts of the film to me.
Right.
That really hit me hard.
But and that also sets up what Billy's about to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that we've tried. We've tried your way. We've tried the nice way.
They're just going to keep on being evil and hurting people and killing people. And that has to stop.
And I think it's so important, too, that what Billy is going to use to kill them is something he's made with his hands.
Right.
I think it's important that he takes the time to prep, to know when he's shaving down his spear, that he's making them, with every stroke of the knife is him acknowledging what I'm going to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And that it's not something he takes lightly. It's not something like Hawkins does, where he just pulls a trigger and somebody's dead. Mm-hmm. He still has the respect for Hawkins' life in the end, enough that I'm going to meditate on this and do this the right way.
Right.
It's no rash decision.
Yeah. But when he shows up to kill Hawkins is fucking a prostitute.
Of course.
At least it seems to be consensual.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But literally the girl jumps off of him because they see Billy, a beautiful contrast to Billy's skin is basically like an onyx. Mm-hmm. Just a beautiful dark color. And he paints himself with white skeleton stripes. And the contrast is so great. Like, such a striking visual. Mm-hmm. And there's this terrifying dude standing there and just fucking throws a spear right through his heart.
Yep.
I wanted worse for him.
Yeah, right. I'm glad he died.
And
he died too easily.
He doesn't get any final
right.
Everything. It was just like boom.
He kind of looks dumbly down at the spear sticking out of his chest.
Like, how did this kill me?
Yeah.
But Claire is there as well.
She's trying to stop him.
She's trying to stop Billy from going down that path, and fucking Claire. Billy turns to talk to her, and then Roos
shoots him right in the gut. Yeah. Well, there was no way he was getting out of this.
No, he wasn't. But it's still like, God damn it, Claire, let him do this. Let him do the thing.
I love it. Roos is out. It's a one shot, and then Billy's still coming toward him, and he shrinks back into his room.
He gets a good kill.
Yeah,
he gets
Billy, he's like holding onto the spear, and Billy just keeps pushing it into his throat.
Yeah, he gets a.
It's worse than Roos got, which is not Roos, but Captain Ditbag.
Yeah. But now Billy's mortally wounded. He's not making it out. But Claire helps him get out of the village now because they're going to brutally murder him if they find him. And Billy says, we take this path and it gets us to the sea or to the ocean. And I love the ending of the film. I think it's beautiful, like both in what it's trying to say, the way it's shot. And we basically just hear the song.
They both get to do a song.
Right. That Mangano was singing earlier about his spirit flying and that he is the blackbird.
And he declares himself free.
Yeah, because he's free of the hate. He's free of the oppression. Sadly, he had to die for that, but now he is free. Mm-hmm. And then Claire sings. And I just... The ending of that.
It's just them together on the beach, watching the sunrise, kind of sharing the songs of their culture with one another.
And according to some notes here on Wikipedia, it's a panegyric song, which is a formal or public speech with written verse delivered in high praise of a person or thing.
Interesting. That Billy does or that Claire does?
That Claire does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's I adore the end of that movie. I just thought there was no better way for that to end. Mm-hmm. Because we don't see Claire have a better life.
Right. We don't see then she went back, then she found a new life.
You hope so, but we don't,
But what is she going to do now? Like, the mental anguish that she's gone through, like, since her life is over, her old life is over, but now Billy kind of did her the favor that she didn't have to lose everything.
Right.
But...
Well, I think also from her singing and her speech to Captain Dickbag, I think she I think we can infer that she will be. She's going to make it.
Yeah,
you know,
she will
she'll be
survive.
okay to some degree.
She will survive, and he got his due diligence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty powerful movie.
Heavy film. I'm exhausted.
I really struggled recommending it, but I want more people to see this film.
Sure.
Because you can talk about it, and people are like, I don't really know what that is.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I want more people to see this because I think it's so powerful, but it's hard for me to tell people because I'm like, okay, it's a really good movie.
Well, there are certain people that just they won't watch it.
Yeah.
And some can't watch it, and that's okay. You
Yeah.
know. But I mean, if you can, you should.
I think there's so much merit and so much value in every layer of this film, and I would kill to interview Jennifer Kent just to hear her talk about this film.
And there are a lot of interviews out there where she's kind of gone over stuff. I actually put this in my notes to read. She issued a director's statement that was kind of like where she was coming from on doing this film. And this is the quote. I wanted to tell a story about violence. In particular, the fallout of violence from a feminine perspective. To do this, I've reached back into my own country's history. The colonization of Australia was a time of inherent violence toward the indigenous people, towards women, and towards the land itself, which was wrenched away from its first inhabitants. Colonization is by nature a brutal act, and the arrogance that drives it lives on now in the modern world. For this reason, I consider this a current story despite being set in the past. I don't have all the answers to the question of violence, but I feel they lie in our humanity, in the empathy we hold for ourselves and for others.
Damn.
That's nice. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and we often don't see the violence and the colonization that's still happening in the South Pacific, especially in like Papua New Guinea and the South Pacific Islands. There's still blackbirding is a common thing there, where literally a ship will pull up at a shore and say, we have work for you. In these impoverished islands, they'll come onto the ship, work, and then they take them to another fucking island and they never get to see their family again. That's still a common practice.
Yikes.
So, you know, like, we don't see that as much
Right.
as Americans, or even, you know, if you're in the UK or wherever you are. But in the South Pacific, that's still the way indigenous people are treated. Even though there's now, you know, the Australian Prime Minister came out in, like, 2013 or something way too fucking late, and said, like, we're really sorry for what we did officially. It's still fucking happening.
Yeah.
Like, just because you issue an apology doesn't, like, how about you just stop doing it?
Right. Right.
Like, you-
Taking the laws off the books that treat other people like animals or worse than animals doesn't mean that treatment stops.
Same thing
Or that
here.
attitude
Like, when everybody's
stops.
like, Jim Crow's dead. Is it?
Yeah.
Is it? You know, like, we took the laws off the books, but
Yeah.
you still know how people are treated.
Right.
Just the other few fun facts I have before we get into the final thoughts. Production-wise, not
Sure.
with the content of the film. Like you were saying, they did consult with indigenous elders to okay a lot of the content in the film. In particular, a prominent elder, Uncle Jim Everett, was consulted, and he actually sanctioned the retelling of their history in the film.
That's cool.
That's cool. And then, along with that, the language that Mangana speaks is Palawakani, and it's actually a near-extinct language, and this is the first time it's ever been spoken in a mainstream film.
Oh, that's super awesome.
That's pretty neat.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. That was cool.
So, with the heaviness of the film, and I even told you guys I was nervous to recommend this one because it was going to be a rough conversation to have, like, for the podcast. What did you think?
Should I start?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. You know, when I first watched it and I popped on Letterboxd and just put in that star score, I put a 4. But now that I've sat with it and done the research and thought about it, I don't see how I could give this anything less than 5 stars.
Wow.
It's so fucking good. It's so well composed. Everything. We didn't really talk much about the music. I don't think the music's ever, like, in your face.
No, it's there.
But it's very adequate and always is building with the mood of what's going on. And just the composition, all of it just hits so hard and so well. When I went back and looked, I was like, I gave it a 4, and I was like, what am I docking that star for? Like, I couldn't find a reason to actually knock it any further, and I was like, it's so good, it's so impactful. I do think if you have certain hang-ups about the content in the film, it's maybe not one you could go back to all the time.
It's been
That might be a problem for some people.
probably 2 years since I've seen it. So,
But I mean, if the film's that fucking good, it's just that good. So I loved it. I loved everything about it. 5 stars. As hardline as I can be about it.
Wow. All right.
I feel Jason
Nice.
is not a 5-star. on it.
I don't know. I've been thinking about it.
It sits with you, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I mean,
you end up thinking about it a lot.
It is a great movie. It's a very good movie. I think Kent is like a capital A artist. Mm-hmm. So definitely anything she does, I'm there for. The movie's shot great, looks great, acted great. I love that it's at the Academy ratio. It's in that 137-1 ratio.
Oh, we forgot to bring that up.
Yeah. And that's... People may be like, why? But I mean...
Holy shit, the bars jump from the top and bottom to the sides!
that was like the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh, this is Academy ratio.
Which people might have seen that recently. It's not done that often, but you might have seen it recently on The Lighthouse.
Exactly.
If you watch The Lighthouse.
And what that does is it makes your focus very myopic.
Yeah.
Like you're just going to be focusing on pretty much the center of the screen. And Kent uses a lot of close-ups.
Yeah.
And it makes those even more effective because they're framed perfectly. And also she's shooting in these lush, beautiful woods and stuff, but we're not seeing that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's like concentrating on the ugliness of everything. And it also intensifies that claustrophobia, especially during the sexual assault scenes.
Right.
It's just, like you can't escape to the side of the frames. You're stuck right there.
That's really important.
Damn, Jason, you're just swinging in, like crushing us with the film analysis.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Well, those are really... I mean...
That is a good thing to bring up.
Well, thank you.
We don't talk a lot about the artistry side of films sometimes, but that's really important to bring up.
Yeah, I thought that really impressed me.
Let's go ahead and crack your knuckles and be like, well, I don't need to review it anymore.
Having said all of that... Yeah, I'd give it 5 stars.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
You just don't want to be like, well, I'll give it 4.
I was thinking 4.5.
You don't want to...
And then I'm like, what am I doing holding the 0.5 back? Like Dustin said about
that's
the
my
1.
thought. I was like, well, what's the missing part?
At time, I felt the length a little bit. Just a little bit.
I do too. Yeah.
And if I'm going to get that upset, if that's like half a star deduction just because, okay, I'm looking at my watch just a little once...
I was afraid you just didn't want to have a reflecting skin moment where you and Dustin are like, 5 stars, Michael. Like a fucking 2. No actual vampires.
1 star, no actual vampires.
No, it's a 5-star movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it very much. It's important.
I'm sure somewhere out there you can find 1 star, racism's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm still laughing about because people hear the reflecting skin, and Jason messaged me like when I gave you all the final edit, and Jason's like, I just think it's funny that me and Dustin are over here gushing about it, and you're like, I don't know, fucking 2.5 stars. I don't understand what a damn thing happened. Oh, yeah.
All right, Michael, bring us home.
I'm 5 all the way. Yeah. This movie, the first time I saw it, sat with me really heavy. Still sat with me as equally. But what I noticed more on the second viewing is the first time it's the trauma of the rape that kind of sticks with you through most of the film. And so you're still feeling that as a viewer. But then as the second time around, where I already knew what was happening there, I was able to settle more on the racism and kind of see what Kent was doing on that side. Or I saw it the first time, but you're still like in shock.
Right.
Because it's really hard.
There's a tonal shift that still is in line with everything we've already seen.
So, yeah, definitely 5 stars for me.
Awesome. That's 5s all across the board.
Wow.
Rare
is that the first time?
It might be.
Ooh, we have to go back and look.
Well, this film is available on Hulu. So easily accessible.
Nice.
So please, absolutely, if you think this is something that you can watch, it is every bit worth your time. Yeah. Every bit.
Agreed.
All right, Jason, you're up next. What do we got for next time?
Okay, we've been doing a few movies that are pretty heavy.
Yeah.
What's with this heavy? Is something? You saying something happened to the gravity in your time?
So I've decided we're genre exposure, right? We look at all different things.
Oh, yeah.
We go to all different places. Nothing's off limits, right?
Nothing's off limits.
So a few heavy movies. It's time to lighten things up a little bit.
All right.
We're going to go back to 1953.
Oh, I thought you were about to say we're going to do Uruk Sukadoji. I was like, uh-oh.
No, this is a legit lighter film.
Okay. Uruk Sukadoji is maybe a year 2 genre exposure thing.
Yeah, I'm saving that one. But no, I feel like I'm taking a big risk with this.
Let's do it, man. Let's fucking do it.
All right, in 1953, it is a movie called The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T.
Ooh, I like that title.
It is rated G.
Ooh.
It is a musical.
Yes.
Yes.
It is a kids' film.
Yes.
Co-written by Dr. Seuss.
Yes.
Ooh.
We've been toying with talking about musicals.
Yeah.
Because I fucking love musicals.
I love musicals too.
I don't care. Like, I sing Les Mis through the house 90% of the day. So I don't give a shit.
So how did this come to you? I'm just curious.
I saw this back in the 90s. It got kind of a revival. And back in the day, TNT had this great little ongoing series that they would play just kind of like weird offbeat movies every Saturday night or something. So I caught it when they broadcast that. And I also saw it, actually, it was one of the last movies I saw at the Kentucky Theater in Lexington before they switched from actual film to the whole video projection crowd.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I actually got to see this on film, which was great.
Awesome.
So it's a legit, like, midnight cult-type movie, but it's... Well, I might just see what you guys think.
Ooh, I'm excited for
Killer, man. It's going to be great.
Oh, and I bought the blue just for this.
Yes.
Ooh, take your shot. Well, as always, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate every single person who tunes in and listens to us rant and bullshit about movies, sometimes going into way too deep of philosophical thought, but we appreciate it. Please, please, please reach out to us. We want to have a conversation with you. I don't want to sound beggy or desperate, but I am. Just
We want to know what you think, even if you don't agree with us.
talk
Disagree
to me,
with us.
God damn it. You can get us on all of your favorite social media, Twitter, Facebook,
The Instagram.
and YouTube. Somebody left us a downvote on YouTube, so I was pretty proud of that. Yeah, or email us if you want to go the old way. But until next time, thank you so much. You've been listening to Genre Exposure.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.